Good afternoon, students. This is a video tutorial to tell you about this week's assignment. The first thing you're going to need to do is go to joinpd.com. There will be a link in the Canvas assignment page for this and a code that you need to enter. So you should get a page that looks something like this, and then enter in the code. And it'll load up your HyperDoc, which is being done through Pear Deck. And this is just because Pear Deck offers a couple of flexibility things that just make it a little easier for you. It's going to be in self-paced mode, so you can work through it as you want. You can leave it and come back to it on another day, however you need to do about it. I'm not going to be pushing you through it. You don't have to be on it at a certain time. You work on this as you work on it. Although I would highly recommend looking at the pacing guide that's in the same page in Canvas as you're watching this tutorial video, as I've kind of laid out day by day for the week about how much time you should spend and what activities you should be done with by the end. Just to kind of help you figure out and plan it as you're working on your other classes' assignments. So this HyperDoc is going to walk you through the Spanish flu and COVID-19. What we're working on here is your historical thinking. So continuity and change is a big part of historical thinking. And if you're wondering why we are doing certain things the way we are right now during COVID-19, one of the things to look at is the Spanish flu. The Spanish flu took place in 1918 through 1919, and it is the last major pandemic we went through, and it devastated the population, as you will learn as you go through this. And so this is a really great opportunity for you to see why some things are being done the same. So some things we learned that worked in the Spanish flu that we're using now in COVID, versus some stuff that we did wrong during the Spanish flu, and that because we know that that was wrong and because we know it didn't work, that when COVID happened and we started realizing it was a pandemic, we went a certain direction. So if you're wondering why quarantine, why shut all this stuff down, kind of considering what happened in the Spanish flu is a really great way to get some historical context for the decisions being made. Now, going into the whole, Pear Deck offers us a little bit more flexibility. One of the really cool things is that your first thing you're going to do is you're going to be given 4 vocabulary words, and you only need to pick one. And you'll look it up, so epidemic, pandemic, quarantine, virus, and then you can use Pear Deck's tools to draw what it looks like, or what you think it looks like. So let's see here. I was doing a virus, might start drawing out what a virus looks like. And I might be getting this wrong. I'm not a biology teacher. Please don't tell on me to Mrs. Creech. So you would do something like that, probably a little bit more in-depth, but this is just a tutorial video. And then when you move on and submit the Pear Deck at the end, this will be sent to me and I can look over and see what you did. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to be sent to the CDC website. The CDC is a government entity, so it has a lot of really good, reliable information. And they have a great page on the Spanish flu. Now, your setup might look a little different. I'm on my laptop, so it's squished it up here, but when I'm on my desktop, the side panel is over here on the side. I would recommend just clicking through 2 or 3 of these. So there's a really cool historical image gallery. The 1918 pandemic timeline is really cool. The infographic is well done. The 3 waves of the pandemic is also a really cool read. For the Spanish flu, there are 3 waves. It was first kind of noticing, the second is the major dying off of people, and then the third is kind of when they start to fight back against it and start to kind of end the flu. Well, not end it, but get it to die out a bit more. And then the complete story also, Reconstruction of 1918 Pandemic Viruses, is another really good read. So if you want to do a bit of reading, this is a good one. But if you don't want to do a bit of reading, I would recommend these 3. But so you will read those and take notes on them, by the way. I would say take notes throughout this whole presentation because it'll help you as you do the other assignments towards the end. So you'll take notes on this. In the next slide, you're going to tell me 3 things you learned, 2 things you wonder, and 1 question you still have. So here you would write, 3 things. Oops. I learned. And then what are 3 things you didn't know about the Spanish flu that you learned from that website? So maybe you learned about the death toll, or maybe you learned about its origins. That's where you would write it. And then 2 things you wondered. So as you were reading it, you're probably going to be asking yourself questions. Or, so it's not necessarily those questions, but like, I wonder how they found this cure. I wonder how they came to this conclusion. I wonder what it was like to be a medical professional during this time. Just those sorts of things. What were some things that you kind of were interested in, you wanted to know more about, really sparked your imagination or interest? And then lastly, one question you still have. So you asked yourself a question as you were looking through that website. You didn't find an answer. You still have it. Go ahead and share it with me in this Pear Deck. After that, you'll be brought to an Ed puzzle. I'm sure many of you are familiar with an Ed puzzle. For those of you that are not, you'll play this video and then it'll take you through some questions and notes that you will answer. I mostly wrote in notes for this one. There's a few questions I asked, and it just kind of is to compare, get you thinking about COVID-19 and the Spanish flu and the similarities and differences that we're seeing with them. So this video itself is about 10 minutes, but with writing down notes and with answering those questions, you might find that it takes you about 20 minutes in total to complete. So make sure that you kind of give yourself time appropriately there. Next, you're going to read an article, and this article is from Newsella, and it's about flattening the curve. So this is where we're getting into COVID-19. It is about 4 pages long, sort of. It's 3 pages really. The last page are some questions. So there's 4 questions here. You'll read these questions, and then you'll write the answer to them in here. And I don't know if this is the right answer, so don't go thinking that you can just write down A and get it right. I'm giving this as an example. So for question 1, you would write 1, A. Question 2, you write 2, B, and so on and so forth. And you should have 3 answers. And those questions are all based on the article, so you need to have read the article to answer them. After that, you're going to be brought to photo analysis. These are some images from the Spanish flu. They are from The Atlantic, which is a newspaper and magazine, and they are images from the Spanish flu. I believe there's about 10 or so of them, and underneath is a little blurb about what's going on in that photo so that you know what's happening. You're going to scope these images, and there's a place in Canvas to turn this in. So you'll copy and paste an image. So you go to the Spanish flu, find one of the images you like, copy and paste it in so that I know which one you're talking about. And now for scope, the first thing you're going to do is scan. And this is what we always do when we look at an image. You are going to look over it and talk about what you're seeing. I'm not going to go through this whole thing. There's a video tutorial for it in the scope part of Canvas, but just so you get an idea, this is where you're going in. And you'll do 2 of those. Next is a cyber sandwich. You are turning this in Canvas. So you'll click on the link to the cyber sandwich. You can either work on this alone or you can work on it with someone else who's taking the class. So if one of your friends is taking the class, you're more than welcome to work on it with them, just like you would a normal cyber sandwich. But you can also do this by yourself. The first slide is going to be about the Spanish flu, and the second one is going to be about COVID-19. And then you'll write a paragraph comparing and contrasting both of them. And this will set you up for the last thing that you need to do, which is apply. So once again, more in-depth instructions on the apply section can be found in Canvas, but you'll have some options: Adobe Spark, Poetry, Heroes, Scratch Art, Propaganda, Infographic. These are all ways that you are going to show me your understanding on the Spanish flu and COVID-19 and essentially pandemics in history. There are a few options there, but if you're looking at this and as you were thinking about the Spanish flu and COVID-19, you have another idea that you would like to do, something else that you think fits and that would show your understanding and knowledge, I'm more than happy to accommodate that. So email me your idea, explain what's going on, and I will give you a yes or no on whether or not I think it's appropriate for the assignment. A lot of you have different interests and you're at home, so you might be working on something that you think goes with it, and that's totally fine with me. All right, so that is this week's major assignment and the things that you need to do for it. Email me as needed and be sure to check the Canvas module for the turn-ins of the scope analysis, the cyber sandwich, and the apply. And then once you are done with this, when you turn it in or when I end it, it will submit all of your work to me. So I can look through it and see your answers to the quiz, to Newsella. I can see what you did in Edpuzzle, and I can see what you did for the vocab in the beginning.